Hey everybody, and welcome to Real Supernatural Encounters. For my guest today, I have Holly. Before she gets to her encounters, could you give a brief bio about yourself?
Yes, I am married. I'm 45 years old. I have three children that are fully grown, and from my daughter, I have a beautiful 2-year-old granddaughter. I've had many experiences over my life. I know now in life my gifts. I'm a psychic medium, and hold on one second. And I'm a psychic medium, and I've had a bunch of different experiences over my lifetime so far.
Okay, well, if you're ready, you want to go ahead and start telling your experiences?
Sure.
Okay.
I knew from a small age, I grew up in a Victorian house that was haunted. And I knew, like, as far as I can remember, and I can remember like an elephant. Like, I kind of, like, photographically, I remember faces. I remember not maybe not names, but I remember like certain. I remember a lot of things that normal people would not remember,
Mhm.
and I just remember, experiencing things when I was really young. Like, I can remember, I have flash memories back to like 2 years old, and I remember being in the house, seeing that different apparitions in my house. Like I told you, we would eat at the dinner table and the light would go on and off, shut off, dim, on and off. Footsteps at night you would hear in that house. Um, Different. Oh, and I forgot to mention this. And some nights, if you know, I would stay up, and I don't know why there would be an energy in the house. And we had like a formal parlor. Like, it went like those old houses, we had like a front room, like a formal room, a parlor, they call it. We still call it a parlor. I'm from the east, so that up near Boston. So that's what we call it, a parlor. And you had like a formal dining room and like a kitchen with a small dining room in a pantry. But I remember the formal room because it had these big white French doors with little glasses in them, like little small square glasses. And I remember sneaking down quite a few times from hearing footsteps and what sounded like music, like almost like violin music.
Mhm.
And I remember a couple times being really little, and I would go down there, and there was actually, I would see apparitions of people from like period dress, like the time the house was built. And they were dancing, like waltzing in the front room, but I was hiding. Like, I had a feeling they knew I was there, but some of it, some of them were intelligent, I felt, and some of them were on like a loop. Like, like it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's not intelligent. It's
Like a
it's
time
it's
loop?
yeah, like it's
Mhm.
there's a word for it that begins with an R that's on the tip of my tongue right now, and I can't think of it.
Okay.
Um, well, anyways, they're on like a time loop, and it's just I'm at it's just someone that lived there for that long a period of time. They're gonna leave that energy imprint, and they're not gonna answer you back, or you just see it, and it's there, and that's what it does. It just repeats itself over and over like a film.
Mhm.
But I saw that. My father also owned the house in the backyard of our property, which, like, it came around a certain street, and then there was a dead end street right off of our street. But it ended up being that dead end street was in our back. That house was in our backyard from the Victorian house. Now, my grandmother died in that house. When she died in that house, my aunt sold it to my father. So my father had both the houses and all the land.
Mhm.
And in that house, I remember painting with my father one day, and it getting really, really cold. Like, I could see my breath, and I could feel the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And I just remember being like really young and my dad saying out loud, you know, "Ma, go away. She's too young. You're going to scare her," you know, and all of a sudden, like within like 30 seconds, that feeling went away. But my grandmother died in that house and she never went away. I always would see her, you know, she would just present herself in ways that I had saw her in pictures from like a long time ago. You know, I remember I was playing with cars down at the bottom of the landing on the first floor and looking up and seeing her. And my grandmother was not a small woman. She was like almost 6 feet tall. So she had a hat on and she was dressed like I remember in the pictures. And she was just looking down on me, watching me playing. And she's smiling at me and she say, "Hi, Holly Berry." And I would wave back at her, "Hi, Graham." You know, and I remember her from when I was little. I do have memories. She died when I was like maybe 3.5. But I have memories of her and her calling me Holly Berry, Holly Berry. And it was just real. It kept happening. You know, she would come in every now and then and peek on me and see how I was doing in that house. You know, there was other things in the other house too that I lived in, the Victorian. There was a lot of orb energy too, like orbs and but they were huge and it was like they kind of sounded like almost like because I have the clear. So it sounded to me like aluminum foil, like when somebody crumples, you know, up, crumples up aluminum foil. These orbs were huge and they had like almost like different auras, I want to say, in them. And they would sound like that to me. They would sound like tinfoil crushing up. And they would come and move around, you know. And it was very long staircase and a long hallway. So, you know, and they were quite big. Like I'd say at least, you know, like big, like at least 6 inches, like all the way around in a perfect circle. I realized then that I could see all these things. I could hear all these things and I could smell because my grandmother would also wear this perfume too called Lily of the Valley from Avon. And I would smell it, you know, whenever she was around. I could smell it. I knew she was around. And I was about to see her. That was usually a cue, you know, she was gonna show herself to me. But over the years, different things, all kinds of crazy things. Like I was starting to say things, like strange things that, like to my parents, like I told you, like, "Hey, Dad, remember when you died and I went to college?" You know, my dad would be like, "What? Why are you saying these things?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just remembered I just wanted you to remember when you died and I went to college." And it ended up being on later in life that he was 40 years old. He had an industrial accident. He fell and smashed his hand, smashed his face. He had a real bad one. He almost died. But he made it through that. And then he ended up having a triple bypass because he couldn't use his hands for like 2 years. And he was a lot of sitting around. It really affected his heart because that's what he was. He did roofing, he did construction. You know, that was his livelihood. So that's what but I knew when I was a little girl, it was serious enough that my dad was in the hospital bed and I saw like tubes in him and stuff. And I thought he was dying. And I knew I was in college. That's all I knew. That's what I saw. So I kept having these little premonition things. You know, I would see them before it would happen. I would feel like extreme deja vu, like I've been there before. And then it started around 6, where I remember the first time it happened and when I was playing kickball in the street with my friends. And I remember playing kickball and just all of a sudden, wham, like it hit me in the chest so hard. Like I felt like I almost got knocked off balance. And I would immediately feel the need to run, like run. like I didn't know what to do. And I had a climbing tree in the backyard. I would either climb that quick and hide up in there, or I would go like under the deck we had under the porch and just wait, like ride it out. Because at the same time, I was getting all these flash images of what I would say. I saw airplanes, I saw buildings, big tall buildings collapsing. I saw people running, smoke, like it was an apocalyptic type thing, what I was seeing. And it kept happening to me, and it kept getting worse and worse. And probably about, it happened till about I was age 11 or 12, and I really started to understand what was going on. But in the meantime, my family knew about this, and they knew that I had gifts, they knew. And my father, like I said, my father, to help me feel better, to help me feel like everything was going to be, I would be all right no matter what happened, that he would teach me how to survive, like in the wilderness, and my dad's heavy into firearms, and safety and all of that, like hunting. And, he taught me all of that when I was a small kid. I was 10 years old reloading pistol and shotgun shells. He has boxes and boxes of them on the wall, but he taught me survival. So in case anything like that did happen, I knew I felt like my own way, like I would make it, I would survive, and then, I kept having the premonitions, but I felt a little bit better about it. I was still having the panic attacks, still having all of these things. And what was I gonna say? Then you fast forward to 9/11. And this was the scariest day of my life. I won't forget it. I was listening to Howard Stern. I was living in a cottage somewhere in Rhode Island. I forget, Pawtucket or Johnston. And I remember listening to Howard Stern on the radio, and he had Pamela Anderson on that day. And all of a sudden I hear Howard Stern go, "What the hell was that? What is that?" And they're like, he's like, "Hold on, something's going on here." And all of a sudden they're saying, "Oh my God, something just hit the first tower in the World Trade Center." And I was like, okay. And then they were like, "There's no, why would a plane hit the tower?" And all this stuff. They're saying it's an airplane that did it. And so I'm like, something's not right here. And I said, I did not have a good feeling at all. So my daughter was an infant at that time, and my oldest son was in school. So I'm driving, and I can see like the F-14s flying over, and like I knew something was seriously wrong if jets are flying like that over. By the time I had listened to the radio and got to my father's house, I'm banging on the door. "Dad, it's happening. What I saw when I was a kid, it's happening. I think this is it. They're attacking us. I think this is it." And we were just watching on TV when the first tower went down, and then the second tower went down. And that a lot of the big flash imagery I just remember seeing the news camera. Like I remember the firefighters trying to go in and help like those people that were trapped. And then all of a sudden this black smoke coming out, and the people running for their lives, and this is it. I'm like, this is what I saw. This is it. And then I saw like the Pentagon. I'm like, yep, that's what I saw where they hit the Pentagon, and it was just awful. That's what I saw when I was a kid. So I know I have premonition abilities. I know I can speak with spirits. I usually don't like speak out loud. It's usually in my head. I hear my own. It's my mind's eye. It's usually my head, my voice talking back to me. You know, um, it takes very, very rare to hear something else speak into your head. It has to be a very solid spirit that like is, I don't want to say like evil, but very solid and very like, not weak at all, to me. Like I have pushed, and there's people that have tried to like jump inside of me. Yeah, I have to push them out.
Mm.
It all depends. It all depends. It's all different. I started realizing, things that I can always tell when something's around. I can feel it or I can smell it. Like my daughter, like I'll give you an instance of like the different clairs I have. There's like the five senses. You can see, you can touch, you can, feel it, you could smell it, you could taste it sometimes. And my daughter, the apartment she was living in, my sister owns it. And in that first floor, there's a spirit in there. And he was always around, and he was talking to me, trying to talk to me in my mind's eye. And he's like, can you tell him to stop calling me George, because my name is Will. Because my sister Jessie used to live there, and she used to call him George. And I'm like, okay, you want me to tell them that? He's like, finally, thank God. That's what he's saying to me. So I'm like, okay, the spirit here is telling me his name is not George. You guys have been calling him George forever. It's not his name. His name is Will. And apparently this Will, he would smoke like cherry tobacco in a pipe. And like sometimes when he was around, it would be so overwhelming. Like I would smell it, and I would also like taste it in my mouth. I'd be like, like, sick, because it's like, it's hard to explain unless you go through it. But yeah, it was very strong. And I had already dealt with him a couple of times, with him talking about, my name's not George and this and that. So yeah, I would taste it, I would smell it, it would like make me almost sick. And I would tell him in my head, can you like kind of back away with that tobacco? Because I could taste it and I could smell it, and it's making me sick. And he would, he wasn't, anything to worry about. And I'll give you another instance, what just happened recently, which was crazy. In the winter, I kind of like shut down because it's not as much daylight. Like it's like for mediumship stuff, like the psychic stuff still works all the time, but medium stuff is a little bit different. You can even have like a medium come in and take over your body, which is not how I operate. Like I am able to use my clear senses, and I'm able to contact them through my mind's eye. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would never I couldn't just, it's just not me. I could never let someone, sorry, I have allergies. I can never just let someone take over my body, But when I moved into this house, the woman next door, her mother was sick, and she had chronic like lung problems, we'll say. She was on oxygen and everything. And she was still smoking, and she was still drinking nips and things of that nature. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, do you ever get up and go for walks? This is as talking to her. And she's like, no. She goes, they don't make, she goes, I miss my husband. And from her saying that, I miss my husband, I said, say no more. I totally understand what you're saying. She wanted to be with her husband. To me, that's what I got. And it wasn't more than, I'd say 6 months later, 7 months later, that she passed. And I had to like go out and help my neighbor, like restrain her, because they were working on her. And they were working on her in the ambulance, and this is COVID, so they're not going to tell you things, you know what I mean? But my family all works at the hospital here, and I have contacts, so I contacted them. And they're like, no, she's gone, which I knew she was gone because they stopped working on her. But she was freaking out, like, opening the door, let me see my mother, let me see that you're still working. And then her brother showed up, and I'm like, my next name, I'm like, you're gonna get arrested, like the cops are here. It was really difficult. Like, I was trying to help her and help her family. So I ended up burning like what I like to call like a white candle for 3 days. It's like a 3-day vigil thing I do for people to make sure, because I had talked with her prior. I said, if you pass, what do you want me to do? I said, do you want me to call anybody? Do you want me to call the angels? Do you want me to call your ancestors? What do you want? She's like, please do all of that and make sure they bring me to my husband. And I said, I can do that for you. So I burned a candle and I was out on my porch for 3 days. Like, I was up nights and everything. For 3 days, I was out there. I'd take naps during the day, go check the candle. But this was in the summertime, and I was totally like, meditating out there with all my crystals, my stones, and my vibration was really high. And so one night I was trying to put my granddaughter down for this is after the 3-day vigil I did. And one night, I don't know why, sometimes my husband, he'll go to the recliner in the living room because he has back injuries he had an industrial accident. He fell, broke 5 vertebrae in his back. And so sometimes he'll sleep out there if his back's bothering him in the recliner. Yeah. So I said to my granddaughter, I said, let's go out and have a sleepover with Nono. She calls him Nono. She calls me Nani. So I'm in the middle of trying to grab her and put her to sleep. And all of a sudden I grabbed her leg on the couch and I just looked. And no matter if I closed my eyes or opened my eyes, it was this huge, it went from like a small white orb to this big, gigantic, like white orb. Okay. And I saw my neighbor's mother, another woman next to her, and a woman at the bottom. Now, when I could see them, I got hit in the chest. And to me, that was telling me how she passed. Mm-hmm. She got hit in the chest. And I had like one hand on my granddaughter's leg, like, can you come back? It's not really, I'm saying like in my head, can you come back? It's not really a good time right now. I'm trying to put her to bed. And they just stayed there for like a minute and kind of told me in my head, we have collected, I don't want to say her name, but we have collected her and we are bringing her to where she needs to go. And I said, are you sure she's going to be able to see her husband? And they said, yes, we are bringing her to her husband. And I had no idea who these, the only person I recognized in the orb was the mother that had passed. Mm-hmm. So then I go next door. Now my neighbor knows what I am and she knows. Yeah. And I helped her a lot through this process. But I waited till she was alone. I said, can I talk to you? I have to tell you something. I said, I don't want you to get upset, freaked out or anything. I said, but 3 women came to me last night. One of them was your mom. I said, there was another woman next to her. I go, but the woman in the front, she was in charge. And she had glasses. I said, did any of your aunts wear glasses? And she's like, no. Like she couldn't really. She's like, no, I don't think any of my aunts wore glasses. I go, well, when she came, she hit me in the chest. Mm-hmm. I think it's to show maybe she died of a heart attack or something to do with the chest area here. Mm-hmm. And it took me to say to her, I had to really keep asking her. And I said, look at me right now. And I went like this, like I had big giant like grandma glasses on. And I was like, who's the lady with the glasses like this? And she just, her face turned white. She goes, it's my grandmother. She goes, she goes, the other woman must have been my aunt that died from breast cancer a long time ago. She goes, my grandmother died from a heart attack at work. and she called my aunt. My aunt couldn't make it there, and she passed. And I go, well, it was your grandmother, because the woman in the front, she was the one, like the protector, that's what I was getting in my mind's eye. And she was telling me that we have come to collect her and bring her to where she needs to go. And I asked them, will she be able to see her husband? And she said, yes, she will be able to see her husband. And I said, are you sure? Because I'm in the middle of wrangling my granddaughter at the same time. Like, this is the last time. This is the weirdest time. Like, I'm going to be speaking with spirits in an orb, like a couple of them at a time, It was just really strange timing. And I said, if you'd like, I can come, you can come back later and we could talk more. But they never came back. They just wanted to get their point across that they were there. They had collected the mother's spirit. She was with her family, her ancestors. And she, it was like a white light. Like they were in a white orb light, but I could see their faces, and they were telling me, showing me, talking to me in my mind's eye. And when, it was just weird. And when I did that, the lady with the glasses, she goes, oh, my grandmother. Then she told me the story. I go, that's why she hit me in the chest, to let me know. That's a clue. So yeah, that was pretty recent. That was like last summer. That was like a big event, where I'm seeing an orb with 3 people in it, whether I'm blinking, I'm not in my, I'm in my mind's eye, like I'm seeing it visually, you know what I'm saying? There's a difference, sometimes like it's different. Like this was like right up in my face. And I think it's because I had talked with her. I had gotten to know her so well. I knew exactly what her wishes were. I burned a vigil for her for 3 days, asking for her family to, her ancestors, the angels, everyone to come and collect her and guide her and make sure that she's going to the right place, because she misses her husband and she wants to see her husband, and that's basically what they were there for. And my next door neighbor, she was just like so ecstatic. She was just so excited and happy, that I was able to tell her that, she was like crying, but it was tears of joy, like, thank you for telling me that, because my next door neighbor is a lady like you don't mess around with. Like I can be like that too, but this is a lady you don't want to mess around with. And like, I didn't want to make her upset. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but she already knew me as this, she already knew certain things about me, that I had gifts. But when I told her that, she said that she was relieved and that happy. And these are tears of joy that, that they were able to come through and, tell me that, guide me, like tell me that, she was going, this was such and such, I knew the lady in front was in charge. I knew it was all family. And it was just really emotional, but it kind of helped her heal, because she was a mess for a little bit. And I told her that because I didn't want to, get her upset. I don't want to hurt her feelings. Like some people aren't ready for that spiritually, I think. They don't understand. Like if you're not, I don't know how to explain it. Like everyone has the ability and the gifts. You have a whole brain you don't use. Think about that. Really think about that. There's probably parts of your brain that just are meant to access other things that people don't understand or don't want to. That's why kids are so, like, I think children are not jaded by life and they have imagination. They're still open to it. But usually kids by like puberty or like by the time they're like 16, 17, it starts to cut off. You know what I'm saying? They don't see it anymore because they can start to get, told this is this and this, it's black and white. That's the way it is, like, some kids, it's awful what they have to go through, some kids have mean entities that are in the house that don't want them there, and they present themselves all kinds of ways and scare them. And the parents are just like, go back to bed. You're dreaming, or there's no such thing as this. No, why don't break it down? Don't. It's not an overactive imagination. If your kid is coming to you, telling you there's a man in my closet, most likely there's a man in the closet. It's just, people just sometimes they just don't understand. If you don't open up and try to listen to people. What happened here?
You just gotta hit
Hold
the
on a
video.
second. Hold on a second.
All right.
All right.
There you go.
All right, we're back. Okay, sorry. But I just think that, like people, I think everyone has this gift. I think it's just others are more developed with it from, childhood. It doesn't shut down.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. Do you know what I mean? And I think like you can definitely begin to meditate and raise your vibration, and then you will start to notice some things you didn't notice before, or that you would dismiss before. Because I'm a skeptic. I'm the biggest skeptic of them all, but I know what I know, and I know what I see, and I know what I feel and smell and taste. Do you know what I'm saying? But I know the difference between like a shadow that's coming from, something that's reflecting off of something, and a spirit that's moving as a shadow, or I could tell the difference. You know what I mean? And sometimes I think people just brush things off when they shouldn't be. They should be paying attention. It's like, it's hard to explain to some people. It's just like a foreign concept, like total foreign concept. They just don't understand it, and they will never believe it. They could possibly even go through a supernatural experience and just still try to, define it by logic. You can't. You can't just accept what happened and move on. You know what I mean? That has to do with ego, I think, and people trying to always, I'm right about everything. No, you're not, but I just, I've been around it my whole life. It's different. There's so many experiences. Like I can't, like tell you all of them. Right. I'm just trying to tell you different things that have happened in my life, and the gifts that I realize, that I have. I read tarot cards. I do use that as divination. It's not bad. I'm Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I believe in God. I believe in the saint. I will call them the saints. I will call them the angels. I will. I believe God gave me these gifts, the God universe, whatever you want to call it. Whatever they say, energy is never destroyed. It just changes forms. When scientists talk like that, they're talking like God. God is all knowing, he never goes away. He knows everything. It's all energy. It's all energy. That's what it is to me. And if you can learn to meditate and raise your vibration, and do certain things, then I think, you can start to experience some things, really, really experience some things. And where you didn't see this before, you didn't notice this before. It's just, it's a blessing to me to have these gifts, but I've also learned about the curse side of it, and that was not easy what I went through by any means, what I went through in childhood. Seeing 9/11 happen in your childhood years for about 5 or 6 years, and then fast forward and you're 20, I was like 22 years old, 21. And then seeing that happen in front of you, that's not easy by any shape of the imagination, like that was terrorizing. when I was a child. You
Well,
know?
Holly, I got plenty of questions for you if you're ready to answer them.
Yeah, hold on. I just gotta get my charger for some reason. It's so low. Low. Hold on a second. Oh, just get my charger. Shoot. Sorry.
Hey, go ahead and ask these questions before we get too close to our due time.
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready, I'll go ahead and ask you.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I didn't think my battery was gonna go this low. I think Zoom drains it.
Yeah.
Like it was like really charged. Okay. Okay.
All right. So for my first question, what color were those orbs that you've seen? What color?
They range in different colors. The ones I mostly see are I see or saw. If they're circular, they're usually like a circle and they're glowing white. But there's like an edge to them. And it's like there's an aura around it, like whatever color, rainbow. Sometimes they're rainbow colors. Like the big aura I saw and they were coming through the window in the living room that had 3 people in it. That was white, but it was like they were like gray colored, almost like apparition. Like you know how they sometimes they just, but I could see them perfectly in detail. And sometimes I've seen face orbs with like I believe that's how spirits travel without having to fully manifest themselves. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like sometimes spirits don't have the energy to necessarily like fully manifest themselves. Like if you see an apparition, a full apparition, that's a solid apparition. That means that's a very powerful person. Like they know there must be a constant source of energy they're pulling from, and that's usually water, like, and usually like limestone. All of that traps that energy.
Yeah.
You know, if there's water running by, like a river, or to me, that's, and they know how to draw. Some spirits know how to draw from electricity. You know, some of them are real intelligent. You know, some of them get in your head, get in your dreams, like crazy stuff, you know. They're all different, but the orbs I've seen are usually like a glowing, like you would picture like a bright glowing, how do I say this? Like not like a white color, like almost like yellow white color. Sometimes it'll have rainbow auras around it. Sometimes like I said, like I've seen some before with, it looks like actual faces inside of them. And that I believe that's how they travel without fully manifesting, you know. And I've also seen them spirits who are, I've seen anomalies too. I wouldn't call them orbs. They're a little bit different, where like they're shaped in a strange way, like, or different, like they don't, like some of them are just orbs, and then there's some that are a little bit more stronger. These are the more stronger spirits, I'd say. And they travel and they're in those anomaly shapes. Like one might be shaped like a bow tie or like a spiral, like really weird, different shapes, you know. And I've seen them travel like that too. And those are usually like, those are all different colors, blue, green. Those are more solid. Like, I don't want to say that, but sometimes I feel like the blue or the greener ones, that's like a warning to me that that person could be malicious. That spirit could be malicious.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, but not all the time. And I'm not always right 100% of the time, or sometimes the information I'm given at one point may not make sense at that time, may make sense at another time. But usually I'm, you know, pretty good, you know.
Now, when you talked about your premonitions, what did your dad think when your one premonition came true of him almost dying and you being in college?
Oh, he was laughing.
Really?
Laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he a believer after?
Yeah, my father knew. My father knew from telling me when we were painting, telling his mother to go away. My grandmother, he would be working on the house in the backyard, right? And to play games with him, my grandmother would flip all the lights on in the house. And I go, Dad, they're on again. And then he'd have to go back over there, shut them all off. And she'd do this like 3 or 4 times,
Mhm.
and she was just like a tough lady, but I think, in the afterlife, it was like a different story. She had like a lot of kids,
Mhm.
she was a disciplinarian, she was everything, but yeah, she would play games with my dad and she would shut the lights off on and off, and they play games. And then my father would be like, all right, this is enough. I have to get up at 4 a.m, cut it out. And then she'd stop, But yeah, my dad's a believer. I know he is because he knows he was around. I know he saw his mother in that house many a times. And I saw her in the house many a times. He just talked. I remember painting that day and him telling her to go away. I was very little. And I remember it being cold. The room was cold. I could see my breath. The hair was standing up in the back of my neck. And I just remember her like, and she was right behind me. And I know my dad was looking right at her and saying, Ma, go away. She's too little. You're going to scare her. If my dad's not a believer, then, and actually one of those orbs that I talked about that sounded like tinfoil,
Mhm.
it actually came up the stairs one night and my father was in the bathroom sitting on the toilet and the orb came and went past him and he moved back and went in the wall. So if he's not a believer, then I don't, you know what I mean? He
Now,
wouldn't just,
what's one of your latest premonitions you've had?
my latest, one was probably, I knew someone like out of the blue. I knew someone was gonna, actually it was tied to the street that I lived in. The street that I lived on, that Victorian street that I was on.
Mhm.
Okay. I have like some kind of tie, some kind of physical or mental tie to that neighborhood.
Mhm.
And I was acting crazy that night. Like my family is like, what is going on? I'm like, I don't know, but someone's gonna get hurt, stabbed. I'm like, someone's going to die tonight. I'm like, someone's gonna get hurt badly
Mhm.
with a knife. I see this happening in my head. And
Yeah.
this was like not too long ago. I forget exactly how many months ago, but this is just the neighborhood I grew up in. But that shows you like how much of like that neighborhood I carry it with me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And there was a girl, and a girl attacked another girl and stabbed her. And they had it wrong in the paper too. It was awful. The husband watched his wife die in his arms, and everybody's like, "Oh, he killed her," and this and that. It was all over the news. And then a nurse who lived in that, right, she was there trying to help the girl, and
Mhm.
she's like, "Listen, that man did nothing to him. To his wife. He had to watch her die in his arms. It was that girl that did it."
Mhm.
And eventually they fixed it and everything, but it was like horrible. And I saw that coming like that night. I knew it was happening that night. And the next day, boom, such and such street, and they're like, my family just is like, they're shocked by it sometimes, but they're not because my kids have forms of my gifts. My
Now,
kids have always,
have
you
you
know,
seen
I,
your dad after he passed?
my dad's still alive.
Oh, he's still alive? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Has
My
he
dad's
said
alive.
anything others about your premonitions and stuff?
No, he usually just laughs and he lets it lie where it is. You know what I mean? He doesn't play with it. Like, you know, he just, sometimes if I say something, people are like, oh, don't say that. Or, like he gets nervous a little bit, but no, he usually just lets it lie where it is. Like he was laughing actually when he was in the hospital having before he had the triple bypass. The first thing when he said to me when I walked in the room was, hey dad, remember when you died and I went to college? And I was like, very funny. I was like, I didn't know what I was seeing,
Mhm.
but my dad's a comedian too, like that's what he does, and he's a funny guy. So he took it, but he leaves it alone. He doesn't play with it, like he doesn't mess around with it, anything like that. But he knows. They know. My parents know. My family knows. My sisters know. My sisters have it to a degree. Like one
Oh,
of my
wow.
sisters born in the same day, 4 years apart, which is weird.
Yeah.
Now, I got brought home an apple pie, and I'm like, what is this? It's my birthday. What is this crying thing and an apple pie? Like, what is that about? But yeah, she's like my twin, 4 years apart. We look alike when we were younger. Some people would be like yelling her name, and I'm like, no, it's me. And then they're like, oh, because we look a lot alike, we act a lot alike, we talk a lot alike.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're born on the same day, 4 years apart. But
Now,
different people have different things. I just
how
happen to get a lot of the gifts all at once,
more
you
than your
know.
sister? Like you got more abilities than your sister?
Yeah, but my sister has both my sisters have a good intuition. Like it's something I know what it is now. It's your solar plexus chakra. When that's get disturbed, like especially in me, I say like my stomach's talking to me. But if you look it up, it's really your solar plexus chakra, and it's something's not right because you could feel it in your gut. That's when
Yeah.
people say, I can feel it in my gut. That's what they're talking about. That's where the intuition feeling will hit you the hardest.
Have
That's
you
what
have you ever had a near death experience?
no, I've been fortunate not to. I mean, I've come close, but no.
Now, what have you learned about the afterlife, if anything?
Um, a lot. I mean, there's a lot still to learn. I mean, you learn something. I feel you learn something new every day. If you watch different things and be open to different things, and you learn something new every day. I feel like a lot of people, some people are trapped here because they're not, like, you can either die suddenly or be murdered, like some kind of like there's all different scenarios, and I believe like it's so sudden. I believe some people don't even know they're dead. There
Mhm.
are people, spirits walking around that they don't even know they're dead. They don't know, and it's kind of heartbreaking to. I personally haven't had to do that yet. Have the chat with them,
Yeah.
but it's I know I've seen it where they don't even know they're gone, and then there's these, there are people that are either tied to the land, the house. They feel like they're the protector of that, so they have to stay there and make
Mhm.
sure everything's okay. I believe that there's a lot of different things. I believe that there's a lot of people who've done a lot of bad things, and they don't necessarily want to go because they have a feeling they know where they're going to go,
Yeah.
which to me is hell on the lower realms.
Mhm.
And then that's
Oh,
why they stay here, because they don't want to move on. They refuse to go because they don't want to pay for what they've done. You
yeah,
know.
see that. I
Yeah.
do have one more question for you before we do the closing comments. What's the scariest spirit or entity you've seen with your gifts?
Let me think back. Uh I remember when I was real little, and I was younger, and I had slept over my girlfriend's house. And even when I went to sleep over, I felt like first when I was walking into there was like a wall of energy, like it pushed me back when I tried to go into the home. And I believe that I don't believe it was a demon or anything. I believe it was a man who passed, but he was hiding in her closet and he was presenting himself like a demon. You know what I mean? But I can tell the difference when you first see it, you're so scared and shocked by it. And that's the first thing you'll hear from anybody who has a paranormal experience is they freeze. They freeze because it's your fight or flight syndrome reacting.
Yeah.
You freeze and you get the shock, whether to run or fight it, and that's also your body coming into the EMF, like the electrical magnetic. You know what I mean? That's your body reacting to it. But this man, I was able, like, he tried to scare me, and I was like, I don't scare easy. And so he turned himself into like this creature, like a demon, like with snakes and stuff. And like, then he was trying to show himself as a witch, like a really scary witch. And I was like, this isn't, but then I could kind of look beyond it. He tried to make himself look like a 10-foot shadow person, when in reality, he was like this guy that was like 5'5", like I can see this after. But that was like the scariest things I've seen. Or sometimes spirits, even who when you're a small child, spirits who have been in horrible accidents that are disfiguring, that can be scary.
Yeah.
If they were burned, if they were in a fire, if they got, hurt really bad or, mangled, and they can't, it's scary to look at.
Yeah.
As a child, imagine trying to look at that when you're a little kid and be like normal, but, I learned how to deal with it, but that can be scary. That can be really scary.
Well, Holly, we came to the end. I want to say I appreciate you for coming on and telling your experiences.
Problem.
But before we end the episode, would you like to give some closing comments and advice for anybody going through similar experiences?
I would just like to say, if you're having experiences, like I read a lot on these, and I give a lot of advice on these websites. Like there's a lot of people going through a lot of stuff, and they're like, I can't see this. What do I do? I can't find something I can't see. Not true. I believe that you can, and you just, you need to read. There may be a reason why you're seeing so much paranormal activity. You may have gifts, you have to. Are you there? Sorry.
Yeah.
My thing is reading and learning, absorbing as much as you possibly can of whatever in the spiritual realm you're dealing with. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I believe if it's something, like if it's something like low around, demonic, you need to seek a priest out, a holy man. I say priest because they don't like, there's different kinds of religions, but a Catholic priest is a totally different entity to them than, like, say, a reverend or like, you know what I mean? Somebody who's married and has kids that has certain, and they're training all kinds of like brand new exorcists. I heard like 4 times as many as they were before. And that's what I mean. There's a lot of bad stuff in the world. But I just think that if you're open to things and you listen and you pay attention, sometimes you'll realize something that you didn't even know was there before, you know? I think you should read. If you're fascinated with it, there may be a reason why you're fascinated with it. You may be sensitive to it and you don't even know. Like, you know, you may not have, it took me a long time to be where I am, you know, and I'm still learning. It's never over with. It's never, there's always something new I learn. You know, if you're having a problem in your house, try to, and having a lot of paranormal activity, look into the house, look into the land, all of that, you know, look into yourself. You know, have you been able to do this since you were a small child? You know, then read up on all of that. I just believe that by reading and educating yourself and being open to things that people usually like are like, come on, or think is like a taboo subject, it's really not. You're learning a lot more about the world. Like you really are. And you grow as a person mentally, I believe.
Mhm.
Like spiritually and mentally, I believe that's how you grow.
I agree. I agree. With that being said, Holly, I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you, audience, for watching this episode with us. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. And this has been another episode of Real Supernatural Encounters. So I'll see you guys later.